Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and today we are kicking off a bit of a new mini-series of stuff I wish I had known when I first started making things. I started off thinking that this would just be one video, and I compiled a list of some things that, I would have told myself back in 2011 when I first got started, and then I turned to you guys on Facebook and on Instagram and asked you to share with me the things you wish you'd known when you got started. And wow, there was a lot of stuff. You guys shared some amazing lessons and tips and tricks with me, and so I decided to kind of compile all of the advice and then create a couple different videos with sort of specific categories of tips and tricks and things you should know. So this is the first video of this series, and today we are going to be talking about things you'd wished that you'd known when you first got started about inventory and ingredients. The biggest lesson that came up again and again, and this is one I have learned personally as well, is that you don't need everything right away. Because many of our ingredients come from online suppliers and you have to pay shipping to get them, it can be really tempting to try and sort of get the most out of that money that you're already paying on shipping to just get everything all at once, because the idea of having to go back and place another order and pay for shipping again for just like one or two things is very unappealing. So why not just buy it all right away? I definitely did a bit of this when I first got started. I placed a lot of ridiculously large orders for absurdly generous quantities of things when I first got started. A lot of the time I wasn't even sure what I was going to do with that thing when I got it, but I'd read the description and it sounded great, so I had to have it. I think a lot of people get into this hobby out of a desire to reduce waste, and one of the easiest ways that we can reduce waste is by not buying a bunch of ingredients that we are not going to use. Now, one of the biggest problems with purchasing a lot of stuff all at once, especially when you're not really sure what you're going to do with it, is that the ingredients will expire. Not everything we use will expire very quickly. Titanium dioxide, for instance, is crazy shelf stable, but things like carrier oils and essential oils, you do need to worry about these things going bad before you can use them. To that end, I really like Christine's advice of making sure that you check the expiry dates and the shelf life of something before you buy it, especially, this is from personal experience, if there's a deal on buying a lot of it, there's a decent chance that, they want you to buy 8 liters of it because it's nearing the end of its shelf life. So just tread carefully there. Don't buy a lot of something that's going to expire before you need it, even if it's a better price per milliliter. If it's still more money and you're going to end up throwing it out, buy less. Another note about buying things that seem to be a really good deal. My general experience has been that if an ingredient is being discontinued, especially if it's an ingredient you've never heard of before, never worked with before, often kind of unique, niche, exotic butters and essential oils, there's kind of a good chance it's being discontinued for a reason. It doesn't sell well for a reason. If you know the ingredient and you love it, cool, scoop up that deal. But again, keep in mind, these products often do expire. But if you've never heard of it and it's being discontinued, maybe just give it a pass. It's probably being discontinued for a reason, and then also worth noting that if you really, really love it, you won't be able to buy more, which is also a bummer. Holly's advice, don't buy too much and double check your orders before you submit them. Because yeah, it really stinks to place an order and need something and then have kind of forgotten to order it. Kim recommends making sure you really know what you need, because she has a problem of ordering something once and then forgetting that she has it and ordering it again, which I have definitely also done in the past. Cheyenne had a fabulous piece of advice, which is before you buy an ingredient, make a list of the things that you plan on doing it. She said that when she opens her boxes, she kind of gets ingredient amnesia, sort of, what did I buy this for? And that totally makes sense, because I think a lot of people will sort of save up a cart of ingredients over the course of several weeks or months before they decide that, all right, there's enough here to warrant making a purchase and paying for shipping. So it can be really easy to be like, I put this in my cart 6 months ago. What on earth did I want to do with it? Quite a few people recommended writing on the things that you buy, like say the date that it showed up in your house or the date that you opened it, so that you have a handle on how old these things are. To add to that, Carrie recommends putting clear tape over top of everything that you write on bottles and whatnot, because Sharpie is not always as permanent in the face of our ingredients as we would like it to be. Oil in particular really tends to break down permanent marker ink and then it just kind of disappears. So Carrie's tip of putting some clear tape over top of that to protect it is great. Barb has some great advice that I think has been pretty hard won, judging by her use of all caps. Her first tip was to never buy more than 10 milliliters of common essential oils, and then generally speaking as little as you can of more exotic ones. And I would say that that's definitely true unless you make soap, because soap just consumes huge quantities of things. But yeah, if you are really just making skincare products for yourself, 50 gram, 100 gram batches of things, and essential oils are typically used at 1% or less, you don't need huge 100 milliliter bottles of essential oils. I know I bought a ton of different types of lavender a few years ago from New Directions Aromatics when they were having a sale, and I still have almost all of them. It was a great deal to buy them in 100 milliliter bottles, but now they're really only good for diffusing because I'm concerned that they're so old that sensitization might be a problem. Barb's other piece of great advice is that there's really no reason to buy more than, say, 100 milliliters of most carrier oils unless you are a soap maker, especially those expensive ones. I find for myself, when I know a carrier oil is really expensive, I'm hesitant to use it, and then there's a decent chance it's just going to expire on me. So that kind of dovetails into, if you're gonna buy something, make sure you're going to use it. And if you're buying something and it's so expensive that you think you'll never let yourself use it, don't buy it. If you primarily make emulsions, most of your projects are going to be 20% oils and butters or less. So there's really not a huge amount of reason to buy big bottles of things because they're probably not going to get used. If you really like body butters and body oils and cleansing oils and tend to go through them really quickly, you might consider buying larger bottles of things that you know you're going to go through really quickly, but especially if you've never worked with something before, 100 milliliters or less is usually a perfectly adequate place to start. George recommends keeping ingredients organized by type, and this is something that I do as well. I have a shelf of emulsifiers, I have a shelf of clays, I have shelves of carrier oils and a shelf of butters and a drawer of essential oils. So yeah, keep your ingredients organized by type. It makes it much easier to find not only what you need when you're looking for it, but also to find out if you have something already so you don't repurchase it by accident. Teresa had some great spreadsheet advice, and I do love me some spreadsheets. So she said that when she first started buying things, she'd have a really hard time kind of remembering where she got it and kind of what it was for. So she now has a great big spreadsheet where she keeps all this information. This spreadsheet contains the name of the ingredient, where it was purchased, and then what it does, and some of her notes on it, like, I really didn't like this, or this smells disgusting, or kind of whatever. And so it helps her keep a handle on that. And I love this idea because, yeah, not only does repurchasing something you already have stink, but repurchasing something you already have that you hate is even worse. Elizabeth says, don't buy so many essential oils and fragrance oils. And Elizabeth is definitely right. If you can buy those things in person at stores, I find that's often best. I have a bunch of fragrance oils that I ordered from New Directions Aromatics, and I don't like the way most of them smell, but I couldn't smell them before I bought them. Whereas the ones that I've got from Windy Point here in Calgary, where I've been able to huff them all before I brought them home, those get used a lot more often because I know I like them. Alright, so that is advice for video 1 of things I'd wish I known when I first got started talking about inventory and ingredients, with our key takeaways being: don't buy huge quantities of anything unless you're sure you can use it. Don't buy everything, especially when you first get started, and keep things organized, not only physically within kind of whatever space you have for your ingredients, so that you know that emulsifiers are here and clays are here and sort of so on and so forth, but also keep yourself digitally organized so you kind of know what you have, you know when you got it, you know what it's for, you know where you bought it, things like that. If you have some relevant tips you'd like to share, please feel free to throw them in the comments below. And if you have some wisdom that you'd like to see shared in some upcoming videos, throw that in the comments below too, and you might just hear your name in an upcoming video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and thank you so much for your input on this first video of this series. But yeah, thanks so much. I'll see you next time.